Hello friends, welcome back. In the previous video, I have told you that on each render, a new effect function is created and executed after the DOM has been updated. Since our counter component updates only when we click our button, let's try to move the count increment to the effect function. We can do that because if we update the isOn state variable here, then it will trigger a re-render, which means that the effect function will get executed after the DOM has been updated. So let's move this set count inside the useEffect function and let's see what we have. Let's save this file and let's go to the browser. As you can see, it is incrementing continuously. Why does it happen? As we know, React re-renders the component when the state changes. Since we are updating the state in our useEffect function, so basically it's an infinite loop. So what we want now is we want our effect to run only if the isOnState variable changes, because that's when we want to run our effect function so that it can update the document title plus the count. So how can we achieve that? The useEffect hook can actually take a second argument as well, which is an array. So it takes not only the function, but it can also take a second parameter. The second parameter will be an array of variables which it should consider when it decides if it should execute this function or not. So how it works basically, it looks at the content of the array and compare the previous array, and if any of the value specified in the array changes compared to the previous value of the array, then it execute this effect function. If none of them changes, then it won't execute. So in the array, we want to put is on, because as you can see here, the ESLint also give us suggestion. React hook use effect contains a call to set count without a list of dependency. This can lead an infinite change of update. To fix this, pass is on count as a second argument to use effect hook. Let me minimize this. So ESLint gives us suggestion and it knows that we have to look at is on value. So that's why I've added is on value here. And let's save this file and check it in the browser. Now you see that it won't update continuously. So let's see how it works. Now when there is an initial render, the document title is updated and set count is called. That is why you can see 1. So this is an issue which we will resolve later. And when it updates the count, it will re-render the component. So a new function will be passed to the useEffect function and an array which contain is on. So it will check the previous is on value which was false, that was the initial value, and new value which is still false. So it sees that false and false is not different, so React won't execute the effect function. But there is one problem now. We have this value 1. Why did it happen? Because the effect runs on the first render, as I told you in the previous video. So this effect behaves as a component did mount and component did update together. So it increment the count. The easiest solution to this problem is to have an if condition. So here we need to write if count equals to 0 and is on is not true, means is on is false, then simply return. So this happens only on the first render. After that, when we click our button, the set is on will be true. So basically this if will never be true, so it will never return. Let's save this file and let's check it in the browser. Now you can see our count is 0. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code, and if you can see, so as you can see, React complains that this effect has another dependency of count. But we will not fix this now because we know that count won't get updated by itself, because we only increment the count when the set is on is called. So let's ignore this warning. Now, how can we achieve component did update? So how can we achieve the functionality of component did mount only? As I said before, this effect is basically both component did mount and component did update. So what if I want to do something only after the first render? For example, just to call an API, how can we do that? I don't want to call API on each render. So in that case, we can create a new use effect. So here I will create a new use effect function, and inside I will pass an arrow function, and I'll just write console.log first render. And here if we pass an empty array, and let's save this file. So this is how we can achieve the functionality of component did mount. Because on the second render, React will compare the previous value of empty array, which is 0 element, basically the new array which is still empty array. So React sees that none of the element change, it won't execute this effect function. So this is how we can achieve component did mount, and we don't have to put anything inside the second argument. So that's basically component did mount and component did update. In our case, we can pass is on state variable here, that will be component did mount, and sometime component did update when the is on state variable changes. Now let's save the file and check it in the browser, and let me inspect, and let's go to console. So here as you can see, first render, and if I click this button, the state changes but the effect does not run. So this is it for this video, and I'll see you in the next video.